If you have any question, I intend to stop this class or take this class in 45 minutes. So if there is no question, I'll just proceed with the class. But if there is any question, I will appreciate the question coming now. Okay, so I'm having a question from the chat room. He said, please, after the training, can someone decide, and is it acceptable that someone can choose to take the PMI certified associate in project management certificate? Please, the answer is yes. The answer is 100% yes. Whether you want to write PMI or any other exam is up to you. Okay, ours is to provide a free training. Okay. And someone is asking, can someone reschedule to take IPM exam on different date? If there is something really prompting that, we'll take care of that. But if it's just rescheduling for rescheduling's sake, we don't do that. We reschedule on health grounds or maybe business grounds where your company is sending you somewhere, you'll not be able to have the time to write exam, or other relevant reasons. But if it's to reschedule because you're not ready for exam or anything like that, please, we don't do that. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Could there be any other question for me? All right. The YouTube channel is up. So the class is also available on YouTube. So if you wish to join us on YouTube, please feel free and join us on YouTube. All right. Okay, so welcome once again. Yesterday, we took the time to introduce the first knowledge area in project management, where we spoke about project integration management. So today we are going to be looking at the project scope management, and we are going to be doing that in a moment. Please also ensure to take your attendance before you leave the class. If this is your first time of coming to this class, you're welcome. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to get all the video classes of yesterday. If this is your first class, please ensure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and get all the video classes of yesterday. Okay. Okay, so we are treating PMBOK, the 6th edition. 6th edition. All right. Okay. So without taking time, I would like to go through this once, and then we will move on. Okay. If you're using YouTube for live streaming, please ensure to send us your sending your attendance request to our WhatsApp number 2348147029035. That's for those that are streaming from YouTube. So you can send in attendance request because we are not sharing attendance on the YouTube. Nena Chukwuigwe, he said the class timing is really difficult for me, 3 hours ahead. Is there anything that can be done? Please, where are you joining from? Nena Chukwuigwe, which country are you joining from that is 3 hours ahead? Nena Chukwuigwe, where are you joining from that is 3 hours ahead? Okay, from Saudi Arabia. Okay, United Arab Emirates. Okay. So sorry for that. You can also use the YouTube channel where you're unable to meet up with the live classes, and then you can use the WhatsApp group to make your request. So all classes will be available on YouTube. Anytime you wake up, you can just download all of those videos and then take your time to go through them. All right. Okay, I'm seeing, please, Nena, would that help you? Please, if you can help, if it will help you, please let me know. From the chat room, all of these questions that are not particular to this class right now, I will answer them after the class. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's quickly go through the project scope statement one. Go to project scope statement. Then I'll be handing over to the second lecturer for today, who will be taking care of project schedule management, and that will be all. So if we run up on time, we can get this class done on or before 4 p.m. today, so that all of us could go and have a good rest. So please, if you can see my screen moving, please do let me know. If you can see my screen moving, if my screen is moving where you are, please type 1-1. If my screen is moving in your area, type 1-1. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Okay, scope management. I would like to summarize what we did yesterday on integration management. So we talked about integration management as the processes involved in unifying all project activities towards achieving project goals and project objectives. That's what we spoke yesterday. And we mentioned that there were 7 management processes in project integration. So please, can someone in this class help us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7? Someone could give 1, another person give 2. So I need like 3 people to help me with those 7 management processes in project integration. 7 processes in my, okay. So I have Sylvester Oko. Sylvester, please kindly unmute and go ahead. Sylvester, please, I'm waiting for you. Okay, so I trust his network is wonderful. Please, can someone help us? If you can't put it in the, if you can't raise your hand, please, can you put it in the chat room? The 7 management processes in integration management.
Sylvester, you can ask your question.
I perceive his network could be affecting him. Oh, wait.
I think.
Are there people hearing me in this class? Because I'm not not seeing any. Okay, so I am seeing something in the chat room. First one, develop project charter. Number 2, develop project management plan. All right, number 3. Please, I'm waiting. Are there people here that attended the class yesterday? Or are these completely new people? Okay, direct and manage project work, direct and manage project execution, direct and manage, develop project management plan. Okay, so we have 3, it's remaining 4. Okay, so we have Christopher Mbono, his hand is up. Please, can you kindly unmute him? Let's hear from him. Manage project knowledge, thank you. It's remaining 3. Please, can you unmute Christopher Mbono? Let him go ahead and.
Yeah, he's unmuted. Christopher. Christopher, you can speak on, please.
Monitor and control project work, Thank you. It's remaining to managed communication is not part of it. There are 7 management processes under project integration management. So we have the develop project charter, develop project management plan, direct and manage project execution, manage project knowledge, monitor and control project work. All right. Perform integrated change control and develop or perhaps close project office. All right. Thank you so much. Please, Sylvester Oko, it is perform integrated change control, not perform and integrate change control. It is perform integrated change control. All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for that. Okay, so I want to ask a question and I think that will help me. Let me know the status all of us are right now. Please, in one sentence, can you tell me what you've learned in this class? Based on practice, all the things you've been doing before now till you've come to this class, please, can you tell us in one sentence, simple sentence, what you've learned perhaps new or differently from what you know about project management practice? I will need that on voice. So please, I will need like 3 persons to raise their hands and just go ahead and tell us. 3 persons, please. 3 persons, please. Please, can we be fast about it? Just tell us something you learned since the class began. All right, please kindly unmute Abu Bakr Muhammad.
Mohammed, please unmute yourself and go ahead. You are muted already. Muhammad Abubakar, please unmute yourself and speak on, please. Please unmute yourself and speak on. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, class.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I think I benefited from all the lectures. Most important one are the rolling wave from the project management. Sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Concurrent polling, rolling wave, I think something like that. Yes.
Yes, rolling wave planning. You're correct. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, from the chat room, I'm seeing Ahmed Teniola. He said he learned how to key notes on initiating a project. All right, thank you, Ahmed Teniola. All right, please, I need one more person. Just one more person. What did you learn from the start of this class to now? What have you learned that is really worth to you? Please go ahead and tell us. All right, please kindly unmute Chizodike. Chizodike, please kindly unmute and go ahead.
Okay. Yesterday, I learned very strongly the need to establish a business case.
Okay.
For a project.
All right. Thank you so much. So he learned on the need to establish a business case before initiating a project. Thank you so much. And from the chat room, I have Trustlin. She said, I learned how to use Chatter to initiate a project. Okay, so that'll be all for now because of time. So let me run through what we have here on scope management. So what is scope management? We've looked at initiation. We've looked at integration rather. And while talking about integration yesterday, we said integration has a primary assignment of unifying all other subsidiaries of the project management plan or the project management practice. Okay, so the project manager has a primary role in ensuring that every other aspect of the project is well integrated and then developed into a well-detailed plan as project management plan. Now, to move on to scope, we have to find out how to break down the project into activities, into different tasks, into different phases, into different milestones, and then also understanding the resources that will be needed to ensure that these scopes are well achieved. So in essence, the first thing we are integrating in the project plan is the scope. So the scope gives us the length and breadth of the project as regards to all the activities, all the tasks, all the phases, all the milestones. So in essence, we could say that the scope covers the project life cycle, all right, from beginning to the end, where the project is going to be starting from and where the project is going to be ending, all right? So scope are those processes, or project management, project scope management are those processes to ensure that all work required and only the work required for implementing the project successfully are captured. All work required and only the work required for completing the project successfully. That's all we capture in the scope. So with that, it already defines what should be done. And when we are now doing what is not contained in the scope, is an easier way to monitor and control what was earlier initiated in the scope plan. It is also what is included and also defines what is not included. Collect requirement, define scope, create work breakdown structure, verify scope, and control scope. They are all the management processes involved in project scope management. So quickly, let's look at each one. For the first one, it says collect requirement. And what are the requirements that we need to collect, or how do we collect requirement? The first thing is that we need to define and document who the stakeholders are. We need to define and document the stakeholders involved in the project. Remember, when we were developing the charter, there was a business case that was developed, and there was a benefits management plan that was developed. Please, for those of us that are joining us for the first time, please ensure to visit the YouTube channel, youtube.com/IPM International. Then you could check out all the classes that took place yesterday. Okay. Now, in the benefits management plan, the benefit management plan is going to be a function of what the stakeholders support as value. And in the business case as well, is going to be a function of what the stakeholders confirm as value. So in essence, when we are dealing with a project charter, we had already identified who that project is going to be for. So the project charter, in essence, will contain a clue of who the stakeholders are. Okay, so in collecting the requirements, we have to define and document the stakeholders, and not just defining the stakeholders by listing them. We need to have a stakeholder register. So the stakeholder register will have the list of the stakeholders, the impact of the stakeholders, and what the stakeholders are expecting. So the expectations of each stakeholder. Then you're also going to have the requirement management plan for each of the stakeholders. I guess you're getting what I'm trying to say. So in defining and documenting the stakeholders, we're having a full stakeholder register. In that, we are going to have the list of the stakeholders, the impact of the stakeholders, the expectations of the stakeholders, and then we'll have the management of the expectations of the stakeholders. All of them, we are going to have them in the stakeholder register. Okay. In the expectations of the stakeholders, it will accommodate the benefits that the stakeholders are looking out for. It will accommodate how frequently we are going to be communicating to the stakeholders. It will accommodate how or what information we are going to be communicating to the stakeholders. It will accommodate all of the details that a particular stakeholder is supposed to have per time. Okay, so that is what the defining and documenting stakeholders will entail. Then the second one is now to analyze their requirements. Okay, so you remember I said there should be an expectation, right? Or perhaps their requirements, right? So we also need to analyze their expectations or analyze their requirements as to know whether we have the necessary OPAs to take care of them, or we have the necessary EEFs to take care of them. Okay, so that is very, very important. So if you join point 1 and 2 together, you're already having a full stakeholder register or full stakeholder management plan. Okay, or stakeholder requirements management plan rather. All right, now let's look at the input that we have here. We'll have the project charter and we'll have the stakeholder register. Then on the tools and techniques, we'll have the interviews, focus groups, facilitated workshops, group creativity techniques, group decision-making techniques, questionnaires and surveys, observations, and prototypes. All right, so all of these are ways we can collect requirements from the stakeholders. Then on the output, we have the requirements documentation, we have the requirements management plan, and we have the requirements traceability matrix. Yesterday, I explained what the traceability matrix is all about. Okay. Requirements traceability matrix links the benefit of each project objective to the business objective. So translating project objectives to business benefits, that's requirements traceability matrix. And the requirements management plan that we are talking about here is the management of the expectations of the stakeholders in the project. So how are you going to manage their expectations, manage their requirements? That will be captured in the requirement documentation, the documentation plan. Why the requirements documentation is going to cover all the full expectations and all of the full requirements from each of the stakeholders, which will grant you access to developing the requirements management plan. Okay, so that's very, very important. Then if I should explain a little about the tools and techniques, we already know what interview is all about. So we can use interviews to get the right information from the stakeholders. Then also focus groups, we can use focus groups to generate information regarding to a particular project. The focus group could be the market you want to serve. The focus group could be the environment where the project is going to be taking place. The focus group could be the primary people if the project is going to be either concerned with or primary people involved in the project. Okay, we could use them as the focus group. Then we'll have the facilitated workshops. Okay, we'll have the facilitated workshops. What do we do in facilitated workshop? Facilitated workshop is a meeting or is a workshop between the project stakeholders and the project team. The essence is to reach a consensus, come to terms of what should be done in the project, what is expected of the project team, what the project stakeholders are requiring, or what the project team are requiring of the stakeholders, and what the stakeholders are expecting from the project team. So we have that sorted out in the facilitated workshop. Then the group creativity techniques, coming to think of how competent they are, how they are able to manage knowledge, how they use their brainstorming abilities to come up with new things. So that helps in the group creativity techniques. Then we now talk about the group decision-making technique. Yesterday, we spoke about the voting, multi-criteria, and the autocratic. So the same thing applies here. The group decision-making technique could be the voting, could be the autocratic, could be the multi-criteria. Now, remember I said the voting can also be called the nominal approach. The autocratic can be called the Delphi decision-making approach or the master decision-making approach, while the multi-criteria remains as multi-criteria, okay? Then we'll have questionnaires and surveys as also tools we can use in gathering information. Then we can also use observations and we can also use prototypes. Now, the second aspect of defining or the second aspect of project scope management is defining the scope. Defining the scope. So what exactly is the scope? Okay, what exactly are we doing? One of the things that we come up with after carrying out the first process of collecting requirement, we should be able to have concrete information that will help us define the scope exactly as it should be, so that we don't deviate from it either to the left or to the right. We'll stick on to the scope. So if you have a scope of, say, 3-bedroom flat in a 1,000 square meter plot with other things specified in the scope, so it therefore tells us that anything we are planning should be around 3-bedroom flat in a 1,000 square meter plot, all right, with other things defined around the scope. If you deviate from it left to the right, you're going to have issue with the stakeholder, because that will be falling short of the stakeholder's expectation or deviating from the initial agreement. All right. So what do we need in defining the scope? We need the project charter, we need the requirements documentation, and we need the organizational process assets. So the charter contains the business case. The charter contains the identified project we want to embark on, or the identified opportunity or problem we want to solve by embarking on the project. The business case tells us the values associated, the benefits associated with the project. So with that, we can define a scope, or it can be an input for defining the scope. Then you now come back to the requirements documentation, where all the expectations of the stakeholders are gathered. So with that, you can also define exactly what the stakeholders want, all right? Then with the OPA, that's the knowledge available to your organization, the competency of your team, the policies and practices within your organization. With that, you can use that to process the information coming in to be able to give you a good scope. So in the tools and techniques, we have the expert judgment, we have the product analysis, we have alternatives identification, we have facilitated workshops, all right? We have facilitated workshops. We've already explained what the expert judgment is all about. Now in product analysis, we want to be sure whether we can come up with this real product that have been defined or have been identified in the project charter. So we do thorough analysis of the product to be sure that we have all it takes to give out to that product. Then we've also spoken about alternative identification yesterday, all right? On the output, we have the project scope statement, we have the project documents update as part of the output after defining the scope, all right? Then afterwards, we now have the WBS, work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure is the breakdown of the entire project scope into smaller manageable components, smaller manageable components. So in WBS, we actually move the projects, we move them from project titles to project phases. Then from project phases, we're able to divide them to, or break them down to project activities or project tasks. So I'll repeat that again. We move from project titles or project scope of work, then we'll break it down to project phases. Then from project phases, we break it down to project activities, all right? So in creating WBS, all we want to do is break down the project, break down the scope of the project to smaller manageable units. All right, that's all we want to do. Now in the input, we have the project scope statement, we have the requirement documentation, and we have the organizational process assets. Now in the tools and technique, we have the composition. The composition is simply breaking it down, breaking that project down to smaller manageable units. Remember, you break the project down to phases first, then the phases, you break them down to tasks. You break the project down to phases, And then from phases, you break the project down to tasks. All right, very, very important. Then on the output, we'll have the work breakdown structure. Then we'll have the WBS dictionary. Then we'll have the scope baseline, and we'll have the project document update. So the WBS is now the project that have been broken down into tiny manageable components. The WBS dictionary will comprise of all of the terms and codes that you used, and the definition of those terms and codes. Okay, the definition of those terms and codes, they are going to be contained in the WBS dictionary. Okay, then the scope baseline gives you the totality of what the scope is all about. Then you have the project document update. Now I have WBS being done in any of WBS by work package, WBS by phase, or WBS by deliverable. If you're running WBS by work package, which means that you're breaking down the project into the smallest manageable units, that's WBS by work package. A work package is the smallest unit of a project activity. The smallest unit of a project activity is called work package. All right. So if you look at what we have here, we have a project. Then you see we have it broken down into phases. Then from each of the phases, they are broken down to smaller units that are manageable. So this smallest units of the project task is what we are referring to as the work packages. All right. Then you can also have WBS by phase. So why WBS by work package gives you the complete detail of the entire project, WBS by phase gives you the major phases involved in the project. Okay, the major phases involved in the project. It doesn't give you as much detail, work package detail, as you see in WBS by work package. All right. So if you are going to be running WBS by work package, there is going to be higher level of supervision to ensure that the work is carried out. Or you must have had a team that is well acquainted with all of the processes and all of the things involved in that particular phase that you're handing over to them. Okay, so that's very, very important. All right. Okay, then you have WBS by deliverable, which details essentially the major deliverables to the project. So why WBS is looking at phases, WBS by deliverable is looking at the things expected as the deliverables in each of those phases. So you see, as the case we have here, you have the major deliverables listed under the proposed phases. So you can see in project management, we are expecting system engineering management supporting PM activities. They're under training. So in the deliverables, we are looking at only, or WBS by deliverables, we are looking at only the deliverables, not the phases, not the work packages. And WBS can be done in any of by work package, by phases, or by deliverables, dependent on the nature of the project you're doing. That would it, and not only the nature of the project, even dependent on your stakeholders, dependent on the knowledge of your team towards the project. That will determine what kind of WBS approach we use. Then after that, we have verified WBS, or verified scope rather. Under verification of scope, remember we have collected requirements, we have defined the scope, we have created the work breakdown structure. So what we want to do now is to verify if what we have can deliver the project's product. That's what we want to do in verification. So verification is ensuring that the plan that we have as the scope plan will be able to deliver the project's product. Okay, what we have in the project scope plan will be able to deliver the project's product. That's what we do in scope verification. So what are the inputs? We have a project management plan, we have requirements documentation, we have requirements traceability matrix, and we have the validated deliverables. Under the tools and techniques, we have inspection. Then under the output, we have accepted deliverables, change request, and project document update. Now, like I said yesterday, inspection can be done statistically using statistical tools. At the same time, it can also be done using physical tools as observation, supervision, and inspection. Okay, so that can also be useful or those can also be useful in inspection. Now, the last one there is to control the scope. And controlling the scope is to ensure that the verified scope is carried out to the latter. To ensure that the verified scope is carried out to the latter. As soon as we are sure that the verified scope will deliver the project result, it's important we ensure effective monitoring and control so as to have the scope plan delivered according to what it entails. All right. Now, under the input, we have the project management plan, we have the work performance information, requirements documentation, requirements traceability matrix, organizational process asset. Then under the tools and technique, we have variance analysis. Okay. Still can be done through statistical tools or can be done via observations. Nonetheless, the degree of variation you want to find out will determine the kind of tool you want to use. Okay, the higher the degree of variation, the more easier it is for us to notice variation. But if variation is negligible, if variation is insignificant, it will be difficult to observe it by the physical eyes. But if the degree of variation is high, if there is high degree of variation, that it is now moving from variation to deviation, then that is obvious to the eyes. Okay. All right. Then on the output, we have work performance measurements. We have organizational process assets update. Then we have change requests. We have project management plan updates, and we have the project documents update. And this is all we'll have to take on project scope management. Now, I observed something. There are some inclusions that are not made here from the 6th edition. So as we proceed in the class, we are going to make all of those inclusions. I observed there are some inclusions that are not made here. So we'll gather all of those inclusions and then we'll look at them again. So now this is where I will call it a time for my own class before I welcome the next facilitator. Please, could there be any question for me? I only have 8 minutes remaining. Could there be any question for me? Is there anything you don't understand about scope management? Could there be any question for me on scope management? Please, if there is any question, go ahead and ask your question. You can kindly raise your hand and ask your question, and we'll take care of that. Okay, so if you understood scope management, please, can you type 1-1 in the chat room? If you understood scope management, please type 1-1 in the chat room. If you understood scope management, please type 1 in the chat room. All right, thank you. So this is a very short class. We'll have a hand up. Mr. Usman Abdullahi, please can you unmute him? Trustly, you only understood the definition, and you allowed me to be moving
Mr.
on.
Usman, you are on. You can speak
Please,
up.
Mr. Usman, kindly go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, please. Sorry, my question is actually as regards to, will there be a kind of a template for where this kind of what will I call it, where we'll have it a kind of a template for actually a project management, a plan.
Yes, you
At
can
the end
have
of
a
the day.
template.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. There are so many templates, so I think I will advise you to visit theprojectmanager.com. Theprojectmanager.com, you have quite a number of templates there. There are so many templates there. Theprojectmanager.com, just go there, register for free, get your login details, and then you'll find so many templates there. Theprojectmanager.com, and you also find so many tools there. Okay. All right. I'm also seeing a question in the chat room from Selassie Teti. Now, your question is actually what I concluded with. I said I found out that I was dealing with 5th edition, and there were things from the 6th edition I didn't cover. So I will have to come back to this in another time. So I found out that the processes here are actually 5th edition, not 6th edition. I was thinking it's two compressed together. I used only one. So we are still going to have time to talk about the inclusions from the 6th edition, but that will not be today because my time is already up. But I observed that. So thank you. Nena, can you different more on WBS by work package and by deliverable? Okay, thank you so much, Nena. WBS by work package is okay, let me use a textbook as example. Okay, let me use a textbook as example. Some textbooks, when you get to have some textbook, you see chapter 1. All right, chapter 1. Then under chapter 1, you see 1.0. Then you see 1.01, 1.02, 1.03. Then you see 1.1, 1.1.1, 1.1.2. That is example of WBS by work package. So it gives you the complete breakdown of the project. Okay, it gives you the complete breakdown of the project. So let's take, for instance, a building project. And in the building project, you have to secure a land, then you have to do your foundations or do your land registrations and all of that, do your planning, do your foundations, do your laying of blocks, roofing, and finishing. Let's assume that these are the phases in a building project. Now, WBS by phase can actually be written like this, but WBS by work package will now go down. Under land procurement, it will now say, okay, what will be the first activity to be done? What will be the second? What will be the third? What will be the fourth? In a sequential order, in a logical sequential order, it will give you the complete breakdown of the steps you have to follow to get a land. That's WBS by work package. It will do the same thing for getting the building plan. It will do the same thing for foundation and other phases. All right. Now, if it is WBS by deliverable, now look at the difference between WBS by deliverable and WBS by work package. In WBS by deliverable, it gives you, it tells you the deliverable, or it breaks down the project according to the expected deliverables instead of the expected tasks or phases to be done. So for instance, you're building a house. So instead of saying procure land as a phase, You will now put there maybe 1,000 square meter plot of land. That is a deliverable we're expecting. Irrespective of whatever thing we do under that particular section, all we want to see is 1,000 square meter plot of land. Then the second deliverable could be a building plan for 3-bedroom bungalow. So it's naming the deliverable instead of the phase or instead of the activity. Then under the deliverable, it will now tell you what you have to do to achieve or get to the deliverable. Okay. So Nena, what I just explained now, does it make sense to you? What I explained now, does it make sense to you? All right, thank you. Do I have any other question? Let me see. Okay, from Rahim Olagoke. I just have 1 minute. But let me attempt your question. Can you explain in detail trend analysis as a tool and technique to control scope? Trend, how things are going, or the future of things. That's trend. The path, something is following, but in this case now, the futuristic path is following. That's a trend. So with trend analysis, can it help us control scope? Can it help us control WBS? The answer is yes. When you see how a project is going, it should tell you whether to say wait or continue. That's what trend analysis will help you do. If you're seeing the path the project is going, if your project is following the trend for which it was developed for, you keep on going. But if you begin to see deviations, you have to say stop. There is a change in the trend of what was originally planned. Okay, so that's how trend analysis or yes, trend analysis can help in managing scope or controlling scope. Then from Son Onachison, they say the project manager doesn't seem to be free. It's his money that he's working for. Siva Oko said, this is Mr. Chibus of Wisdom DK, your friend from Port Harcourt. Is it Mr. Sylvester, formerly of RSSDA? Please, Mr. Wisdom, are you trying to connect with Mr. Sylvester? Please, Mr. Sylvester, read and find out whether Mr. Wisdom is trying to relate with you. Then from Jonathan, he said, the main purpose of a WBS is to reduce complicated activities to a collection of tasks. This is important for the project manager because she can oversee the tasks more effectively than the complex activities. Thank you so much for that contribution, Mr. Jonathan Andrew. Okay, so from Mr. Unachi Sunday, he posted the projectmanager.com. So you can register at projectmanager.com and get other free tools on project management. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I think this is where I will come to the close of my own class. Thank you so much for giving me the time. Can an unexpected external factor in the trend analysis affect in controlling? Of course. Remember, we have change requests. And remember, we still have our assumptions log. So our assumptions log is still going to form part of the things that we use to check the trend. So there could be some external factors that could come up to affect the trend. And we need to put that in check in managing the scope. All right. Thank you so much, Auntie Truslin. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I've taken some time out of the time of the other facilitator. Please, I will be handing over to the next facilitator. But before we do that, let's go on a 30 seconds musical break. And when we come back, we shall be continuing with the next class. Thank you so much. All right, good afternoon once again, and welcome to class. This is Mr. Ebuche Osibanito, and I'll be your coordinator for this class. Without taking any time, we will be introducing the speaker or the lecturer for the second class. We'll try as much as we can to ensure that this class doesn't exceed 3:30, so that we can all go and have a rest and then prepare for work tomorrow. Attendance will be shared by the end of the class, so please, we encourage everyone to stay on till the end of the class when the attendance will be shared. Should you have any question, please feel free to use the chat room or kindly raise your hand, and the information, your line will be unmuted, and then you can pass your information. The person that will be taking us on this class this afternoon, he had been my co-lecturer in this class since this class began. And he's no other person than Mr. Abraham Thompson. He is going to be taking us on project schedule management. Before I proceed, please give me a moment. Let me go through the profile of Mr. Abraham Thompson. He had been a wonderful fellow in the faculty, and we appreciate the great work he's doing. Mr. Abraham Thompson is a certified lead project management professional and an associate consultant with the Integrated Institute of Professional Management. He is a multifaceted professional with extensive knowledge in electrical engineering, computer networking, digital forensics, information technology, and data management. His key competencies span across engineering field with proven experience in implementing computer networks, data management, information security, cyber security, live sound management, as well as project management and consultancy services. He's currently a consultant with Dimension Limited Abuja, and also consulting for the Presidential Amnesty Program Abuja in the area of data management. He takes pleasure in imparting his knowledge and skills on young entrepreneurs and enthusiasts with a view to counsel and mentor them to achieve their goals and attain excellence in their field of endeavor. So join me as I welcome Engineer Abraham Thompson as he takes us on a drive and on a good ride on project schedule management. Engineer Abraham, please, from wherever you are, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the introduction. It's a very wonderful one. Thank you, every one of us in class. I'm happy to be here. It's a privilege to be facilitating under my lead consultant, Dr. Banito, and I'm getting some of the anointing he has. I'm putting it on me to ensure that I deliver well this afternoon. So thank you very much, sir, and welcome everyone. So we're going to be talking on project schedule management. That's one of the knowledge areas in project management. And we know that we have 10 knowledge areas in project management. Please, if you can hear me clearly, please type 11 in the chat room. If you can hear me clearly, I want to be sure that you can hear me. If you can hear me, type 11 on the chat room so that I can be sure that you are hearing me. Please, can you hear me? If you can hear me, just type 11 on the chat room so that I can be sure that I'm being heard. I can only see two hands, two indications, please.
There are quite a number of people typing 11 in the chat room.
Okay. So I think I'll just go ahead then. So now we're going to be talking on project schedule management. And we know that project schedule management is one of the knowledge areas of project management. Initially in Project Management Book of Knowledge in the 5th edition, you will see it as project time management. But on the 6th edition, it has been changed to project schedule management. So now we're going to go straight up. What is project scheduling? We understand that without project scheduling, we will not be able to carry out our project at the required time. Now, we remember the definition of a project. A project has a definite start and a definite end. So it must have a starting time and an ending time. And that is why you must schedule your activities to meet that, to meet the deadline of that project. So now, a project manager, what is the key responsibility of a project manager? A key responsibility of a project manager is to create a realistic project schedule. Your project schedule must be realistic. Your plan must be realistic. You must be able to follow that plan. Your team must be able to follow that plan. Now, before executing the project, you should be able to identify the expected completion date. You should be able to identify the expected completion date requested by the customer. The customer giving you the project or the project sponsor expects that the project should be completed at a certain date. So you should be able to meet that target, that expectation from the customer. Then also, you should be able to identify the target deadline for the project to be completed. What are the deadlines for the project to be completed? You should be able to identify that. And again, you should be able to identify if the planned end date is achievable. Now, the deadline you have been given for this project or the completion date you have been given for this project, is it going to be achievable? So you have to be able to identify that also. And again, you must also ask yourself 3 questions as a project manager with regards to scheduling. Now you're going to ask yourself this question: what must be done? What must be done to achieve this project that is at hand? What must be done? You must be able to ask yourself also, when will it be done? When am I going to carry out the tasks, the various tasks to achieve this project? And you should be able to ask yourself also, who will do it? Who are going to do, who are you going to work with to achieve those tasks? You know, you're going to set up a project team who are going to be working with you, including the stakeholders, to ensure that the tasks, the various tasks to be carried out along the project life cycle are carried out in due time. Now, once you have answered all these questions, then you can now go ahead and make your schedule. Now, little key concept, scheduling, what scheduling is all about. Scheduling in project management is the listing of activities, deliverables, and milestones within the projects. And a schedule also usually includes the planned start and finish dates, the duration, the resources assigned to each activities. Thus, you should be conscious of the start date and the finish date, the duration, you know, the duration at which you're going to perform each task, and the resources needed to perform each task. Now, effective project scheduling is critical. It's a critical component of successful time management. As you know that your project scheduling, you are trying to perform each task according to a timeline. You have a timeline that you should perform your tasks. Now, it provides a detailed plan that represents how and when the project will deliver the products, services, and resources. And those are your deliverables. Now, the project scheduling has to do with you are providing a detailed plan. Okay, I'm going to deliver this deliverable. I'm planning it in sections, in tasks, in various tasks, subdivided tasks. Remember when we looked at work breakdown structure and we looked at work packages, you discover that each of those tasks, those work packages, those little tasks sum up to achieve the major tasks in the project. So now it provides detailed plan that represents how and when the project will deliver the product, services, results, and defined in the project scope. You understand? So you see that now you discover that most of in the knowledge areas that we have talked about, the few ones we talked about, project integration management, project scope management, you discover that the output of the previous knowledge area is always the input of the next project area. Like the output of the project integration management is the input for scope management. Now, you would also discover that the outputs now from your project scope management will become the inputs for your project schedule management. And that's how we're going to work with that. Now, our project schedule management activities in relation to project management process groups. You know, we have 5 project process groups. We have the initiation, the planning, you have the initiation and the planning, You understand? And that initiation and planning, you also have execution, monitoring, and closing. You understand? Now, in the initiation, that's where you produce your project charter. You understand? Now you have that charter, which gives you the guidelines of and gives you the authorization to carry on with the project. Now, under project schedule management, you have some tasks under them that are carried out, and they are spread across two process groups. Now, under project schedule management, we have plan. You have to, first activity is to plan the schedule management. Now, that planning of schedule management falls under the planning process groups. You are defining activities, also falls under the define activities, also fall under the planning group, sorry. Sequence activities also fall, sequencing your activities, that you're sequencing them. After you have defined each activity that will be carried out, you now sequence them according to priority. Now, they all fall under the planning process group. The estimating the duration of each activity also falls under the planning process groups. And also developing the schedule falls under the planning and control. Now, control, if you notice, the control and monitoring spans across all the knowledge areas. You discover that from the initiation, you still have monitoring and control, to the planning, execution, monitoring, and even the closing of the project, you still have monitoring and control. And that will also help out. And if when you're having like the rolling wave planning, iterative activities, and you have to update your activities. You know, initially when you start, you're going to make some assumptions. And as the project goes on, you're going to have clearer detail, and you're going to get feedbacks from monitoring and evaluation, monitoring and control, which will now help you to now update your schedule. I hope you understand. I hope I hope you can hear me, please. If you can hear me, type 1 on the chat room so that I will be sure that you hear me. Okay, so we move. All right, that's good. So can you see my screen, please? I have to be sure you can see my screen. Okay. So now we have trends and emerging practices. Now, the trends that we'll likely come across, we have number one, which is the iterative scheduling with a backlog. Now, this is a form of rolling wave planning based on adaptive life cycles, such as the agile approach for product development. And the benefit of this approach is that it welcomes changes throughout the development life cycles. Now, you initially discover that at the planning stage, you're going to make some assumptions at the initial stage. So now when you keep on planning, you're making some iterative steps, iterative scheduling. Then at some point, the details will get clearer. You get clearer details. You get more precise figures. Then you have to update. You have to adapt. You now apply the agile process by adapting and updating your planning process. You'll be updating those planning processes to ensure that you meet up the tasks. Now, if you talk of iterative planning, of course, it's just a process you adopt. As the project unfolds, you change the plans. As the plans change, and you get feedback from the monitoring process, you change your project assumptions. You know, those monitoring and controlling, they also help you to update you so that you can update your plans. And you also change your assumptions. Initially you have assumptions. Now the picture is becoming more clearer to you. You're having more details. Like initially, maybe you don't have the right cost for some certain materials, and now you have the exact cost, for it. So you now update your planning process, you update your scheduling, you update your tasks. Now, so now the approach is to implement activities under assumptions that all events affecting the project are predictable. Initially, you make predictions of each task. You know when some tasks you feel, okay, this task can be completed in so time and so time. Now you're just making predictions. You are making those predictions, but those predictions will only be clear when you now have details later on, and you can now change your approach to it. You're going to have some life cycle activities. We talked about life cycle in previous lecture where you have iterative, adaptive, and predictive life cycles. Now you have to now take those methodologies and apply it to ensure you have a perfect planning process. Now, when we talk about backlog are just the list of prioritized activities. Those activities that are going to be carried out in the project, those are the backlog of activities. Then you have on-demand scheduling. On-demand scheduling, this approach is typically used in the Kanban system and is based on theory of constraint, pull and pull-based scheduling concepts from lean manufacturing to limit the team's work in progress in order to balance the demand against the team deliverable output. The on-demand scheduling does not rely on the schedule that was developed previously for the development of a product or product increment, but rather pullbacks from backlog of immediate queue of work to be done immediately as resources become available. Now, when we talk about on-demand scheduling, now this is a practice that is mostly done by most big manufacturing companies. It has to do with, scheduling your activities based on the demand. Now, you have a manufacturing company like a car production company. Most of these cars, like Toyota, you have different brands. They don't just produce those cars and keep them in the showroom. They produce based on demand because you produce and the materials are not that common that you can have them on a regular basis. So you discover that this the demand is being met, the schedule is being done based on demand. You have, like, for instance, you have government parastatals who are, the government parastatals who go to, maybe they go to a company like Toyota, okay, we want to get cars for our staffs and we want to get like 200 cars, So the company will now produce based on their demand. Okay, based on this demand, okay, they need 200 cars. Okay, we'll give you a time. These cars are going to be ready so time. You understand? So based on demand, those cars are produced. Like, again, take for instance, a Nigerian company, we know of Innoson Motors. You discover that just recently they had partnership with the military, and the military kind of like partner with them to be producing, bulletproof armored vehicles. That's a demand. And those vehicles now will be produced based on the demand made by the customer. You understand? So that is on-demand scheduling. Now, let's come down to our normal, our day-to-day lives. If you're an entrepreneur and maybe you're an entrepreneur that you manufacture what is called small chops. Most of us are concerned with small chops, or if you're not concerned with small chops, we know of this little thing called buns or puff-puff. Some Nigerians, if you're in Nigeria, you know what puff-puff is all about. Now you're an entrepreneur, you produce buns or puff-puff or small chops. Now you are now given a contract that, okay, we need you to produce small chops. We have a conference and we will need you to produce small chops. Now that's a project on your own part. You are producing small chops, and of course you're not going to be given the deadline. Okay, we want it to produce so time. This is where we're going to be having our conference, and we want to produce. The time is going to be produced. We want social number and all that. Now you are actually a manufacturer of those products. You understand? And now you are manufacturing based on the demand. You won't just sit down in your house and just you just wake up one morning and you start cooking small chops. You now cook like 200 small chops like that. No, it will be a waste. And that's why we now talk about lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing is a methodology that is employed by Toyota company and is still employed by them and most companies. It has to do with you producing based on demand to avoid waste. It's just to avoid waste, so you don't make waste. Now, you agree with me also, if we go to the aviation industry also, it's got that aircrafts are produced based on demand. There's no, has anyone seen a showroom where you have fleet of aircrafts? You have fleet of aircrafts and they just display and say, come and buy aircraft. They are produced based on demand. Based on demand. So that's one example of on-demand scheduling. On-demand scheduling. So I hope we get that. All right. Now we are going to be considering some tailoring. We are going to have considering some tailoring consideration. Now, when we talk about tailoring, it just has to do with selection of the appropriate project management process. And the processes can be the inputs, the tools and techniques, outputs, the life cycle phases that is used to manage the project. And those the project schedule development and maintenance should be tailored against the following consideration. Now, you see that life cycle approach, we talked about life cycle approach in the previous lectures, where we talked about predictive life cycle, iteratives, adaptive life cycles, hybrid life cycles. Now, those approaches, you also consider them in carrying out your project. You consider them in carrying out your project because they will also help out in carrying out the project. So you can also see the importance of knowing how to implement those activities to achieve your goal. Now we have resources availability. The resources available to carry out your project. The resources will determine if you're going to be able to actualize that project or not. And do you have the needed resources? Do you have the quantity of resources to carry out those activities? Are they readily available in the market? So you have to consider that also. Then the project dimensions, of course, you don't just, you want to build a house, you don't just go and you get workers and you start building without a plan. You have to consider the dimensions, you have to consider the dimensions of how the house is going to be built, the plan, the project plan has to be on ground. You have to observe all that. You have to be sure that that project is done according to plan. If you remember, Dr. Vanito gave an example when they went for a project with one of these telecom companies, and they didn't go with the project plan, the plan of the project. So, and it affected what they were doing. So they now had to, find a way out, which they now had to find a way out. You understand? So you need to also consider project dimensions. Very, very important. Project dimensions. Don't carry out the project without the dimensions. Especially if you're in the construction industry, you don't carry out a project without considering all the dimensions to it. Now you also consider technological support. Now we agree with me that there are a lot of technological tools, software tools now that helps in your scheduling. We have so many tools like that. Now, one of the major ones and common ones we know of the Microsoft Project Professional. That's one of the tools, also one of the software tools where you can also use to schedule, to carry out your schedule. Have you have a Gantt chart, you have your activity list, your milestone list, and all the activities that needs to be carried out, your allocation of tasks, everything. You have it all imputed on that software so that you can, you can generate your report at the end of the day. So we now go to the plan schedule management, which is the first step in project schedule management, plan schedule management. And we said that plan schedule management is a process of establishing the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning, development, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. The key benefit of this process is that it provides guidance. It provides guidance and direction on how the project schedule will be managed throughout the project life cycle. That's your project plan. That's your schedule plan. Provides guidance and direction of how the project schedule will be managed throughout the project life cycle. Now we can see that, like just as I said, you have the outputs of your project scope management coming as the inputs of your schedule management. And you see that you in your scope, you will have developed your project charter. You have developed your project charter in your scope, and you will have developed your project management plan also in your scope. Now, your project charter, of course, is just the blueprint of your project planning. Now, it will clarify the general specification and the purpose of the project and the possible outcomes. And of course, your project management plan also is the document that describes how the project will be executed and monitored and controlled. So it's just like I said, the project management plan, just a document that describes how the project will be executed, monitored, and controlled. And of course, we know about the enterprise organization. Now we know about the EFF. I think we have spoke about that. The external factors that affect the project and the organizational assets, the factors internal in your internal organization that affects the project. Now you now go to the main task itself, the tools and techniques you talk about. We are going to talk about defining the activities under the plan schedule management. We talk about defining the activities, how you sequence the activities according to their priorities, and how you estimate the activity resources, and how you estimate the duration of the activities and develop the schedule. Then the output we are expecting is we must have identified all the risks and we'll perform a quantitative risk analysis. Of course, in the project management body of knowledge, it highlighted 6 project management processes under the schedule management, which are, of course, the plan, schedule management, defining the activities, sequencing your activities, estimating the duration of your activities, you developing your schedule and, controlling the schedule to ensure that it follows all the timelines. Of course, just as we rightly say, the project management plan, the input, project charter, enterprise environment factors, organizational assets. We have made a lot of explanation on that in previous classes. Then we have the expert judgment. The expert judgment, where you get experts, professional in that area of knowledge, to gives you some knowledge on the best practices to be carried out concerning that project. It can be someone from within, it can be someone from an external expert from somewhere, it can be a group of consultants. They will be helping you out in schedule development, in the management, and in the control, giving you knowledge on scheduling, the methodologies, enabling you to adapt, to carry out the adaptive approach or predictive approach. They'll help you in scheduling software, giving you ideas on how to schedule using softwares and specifying the industry for which the project will be developed. So we're going to talk more on that. Yes, just as I said, expert judgment is provided based on the experts in that application area or knowledge area, as appropriate for the activities being performed. Such experts may be provided by any group or person with specialized education and knowledge, skill, and experience or training. Of course, it's giving you is one of the things it's going to be helping out is in the scheduling development, management, control, scheduling methodology, scheduling software and all that. Then we talk about the data analysis also. Of course, you discover that when you are defining your activities, you're going to look back at your scope management, at your work breakdown structure. You're going to make use of them. You're going to be determining which schedule methodology to use, how to combine the various methods on the project, and determining how detailed the schedule need to be, and the duration of waves of rolling wave planning. I believe we have talked a lot about rolling wave planning. Now you want to have meetings, of course. You cannot have a schedule without meetings. You will have meetings that will include, of course, the project manager, the project sponsor, selected team, project team members, selected stakeholders, very important, they must be there, and anyone with responsibility for scheduling, planning, execution, and all that. So you have to bring those people to the round table. Now, the reason for that is so that you can brainstorm. It's like you're organizing a brainstorming meeting where you can create a draft of the program and obtain a list of ideas. And during this meeting also, you can also get useful feedback from everyone. You get useful feedbacks from your project team, even especially from your stakeholders too, and every other person in the meeting. You get feedbacks, and you discover again when you're having that meeting, you discover that each of those stakeholders and your team, each individual will have a unique vision. They will have unique ideas to bring into the project to ensure that the task is achieved. Because while you have different set of professionals who are specialized in different areas, and those areas are needed to achieve your project. Now, when we talk about defining the activities now to define the activities, we are just trying to identify the tasks that are required. You're going to identify the tasks that are required to produce the project deliverables so that the resources and the time can be estimated. You understand? So we are trying to identify all the tasks that we need to achieve the deliverable so that the resources and time can be estimated. Now we say to define activities is a process of identifying, documenting, and the specific actions to be performed to produce the project deliverables. The key benefit of this process is that it decomposes work packages into scheduled activities that provide the basis for estimating, scheduling, executing, monitoring, and controlling the project work. Now, we talked about work packages in project scope management, how the various tasks are subdivided into work packages, smaller packages, so that as you achieve each task, each of those smaller packages, you are achieving a milestone. You are achieving little milestones of each task. And the combination of all those tasks now helps to ensure that the project is successful. Now, this process is performed throughout the project, of course. You're still going to be performing, you're going to be, as you have, from those scopes you have, you're going to be performing your estimation, your scheduling, and you're going to use that to also carry out your execution, the execution of the project. Now, in scope, now when we talked about scope management, in scope management, we created the work breakdown structure. And of course, the work packages are also used as inputs to define the activities process. The work packages are also used as inputs. Now, you see that work packages are broken down into activities to ensure that the work packages are delivered, of course, and each activity is estimated, scheduled, and monitored. Each of the activities are estimated. Now, for defining activities as a project manager, you need two critical things. You need to observe two critical things when you are defining activities. You have to consider the scope baseline, and the availability of your project team. Now, without your project team, you cannot define your activities properly because, after you define your activities, you have to also allocate tasks to each team member. So you have to consider the scope baseline and the availability of your team. Now, the scope baseline is made up of your scope statement and your work breakdown structure and work breakdown dictionary. So you now discover that your work breakdown structure is very important, especially when you are defining tasks. And we're going to look at some examples with regards to work breakdown structure when it comes to defining tasks. When you are given a project, you want to do a project, you have to define each task. That's the first thing you do. All right. So, of course, the tools, the input tools and techniques now put for this process, as you can see, you have the project management plan, you have the project schedule plan, scope baseline, enterprise environment factors, organizational process assets. And under the tools, you have expert judgment, because you have decomposition, that's breaking down tasks into smaller work packages. And you have the rolling wave planning, and you have your meetings, of course. Those are just as I just talked about. Then the output, you have the activity list, activity attributes, milestone list, change request, project management plan updates. And we're going to talk a little on some of these activities. Now, for example, you want to implement an integrated management information system. You can see from example here, you can see when you are defining your tasks, you can see that you first of all define, you have the internet data center construction. to achieve this goal now, your project is implementing an integrated management information system. Now, you're going to define your activities, and we have defined them in this format. Now, we have at the top there, you have the internet data center, constructing that internet data center. Because at the first, you need a place to set up this project. Then you now look at the requirements, you look at the system encoding, look at the execution. Now, under the data center construction, you also consider, as you're considering the construction, you also consider the sourcing of equipment. Because after you make your construction, you're also going to get the equipment that will be installed in that management information systems. So you're going to get, you're going to source for equipment, you're going to make orders, you're going to inspect, you're going to accept checks. Under the construction, you, of course, you do your construction, you design, you get the design, you get the site for construction, you get inspection, acceptance. Under the requirement, you do your research so that you get the best products, the best systems to implement. You do your assessment, the demand of a review, what kind of systems are needed to achieve the tasks for the information systems, for the integrated management information systems. Then, of course, you consider the system encoding, the finance system, IT system, mailing system, testing, and on the execution, of course, system testing, the training. After you have tested, you train workers or staff to be able to use those equipments. Then you commission them and you do your job, your project appraisal. So now let's take another case study. You want to build a house. You want to build a house. And what do you do first of all? Of course, you define your activities and you have to get the design. First of all, you get the design. And under the design, you decide on the plans. You have several plans. Okay, how do I want to build this house? You meet your architect. Make some designs. You choose the appropriate design that suits you. And you make changes to the plan. If you're not satisfied with the plan, you make your changes. All that is done. Then you consider the construction now. You consider the excavation, leveling, pouring the foundation, framing, drywalling, the roofing hose, then utilities, of course, the plumbing, electrical, and the electrical aspect of it, then the finishing. Sorry, I hope you can hear me. It's actually raining in my place. I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, please type 11 in the chat room. Please, you can hear me. All right. All right. It's actually raining in my place. All right. Now let's consider another activity. Now let's say we want to have a conference. Let's say IIPM want to have a conference. Now we have to, of course, define our activities. What do we want to do? How do we achieve this goal of having a successful conference? Now, one of the steps we're going to do, we're going to look for speakers, of course. Speakers, we're going to decide, that's those that are going to be facilitating in the conference. We're going to decide the topics. We're going to decide the speakers who do we want to, speak on the event. We have to also arrange the speakers according to how we want them to present, and we get some brief speakers also. And we're going to consider the venue to decide on what venue. We're going to book the venue and we're going to arrange catering also. We're going to have some small chops so that during the conference, there will be an item 7 during the conference. Then we're going to have marketing. We'll decide on how we're going to market the conference, how we're going to do our advertising, which we can decide to use flyers, we can decide to print flyers, to mail flyers. We can decide to use the social media through Facebook or YouTube or through email reminders, just as we normally get our email reminders. And we can decide to, and then the last option, we do registration. For every participant that shall be coming for the conference, of course, we do a registration for them. We create a register applicants, send confirmations, just as when you make your applications to IIPM, you receive confirmations in email. They arrange banking, maybe there are payments that should be made. You arrange banking platforms to ensure that those payments are easily made. Then to obtain approval from the committee, of course, you're setting out these plans, you're working with your project team, set out these plans so you get approvals, also get approval from your project sponsor also. Then you balance your account also to see that you are able to achieve this task. So now let's consider this. Let's say you have a wedding. You have a wedding to attend, or you want to organize a wedding. Okay, you want to organize a wedding. So what are the various tasks you're going to identify? I need someone to give me. I need someone to give me for the invitations. Of course, I want to make invitations. For the invitations, you see beside the slide, you're going to see some options to fill into those boxes. You have shop for shoes. You have create guest list, tailoring and fitting, shop for dress, find catering. You know, so I need somebody to give me for invitations. What are you going to have in those boxes? For invitations, you can type on the chat room. Let me see what are we going to have in the invitation box from those options given there. Okay, someone said print invites. Please let me get more answers. For invitations, what are we going to have in those boxes? We have 4 boxes, so give us four options there. Mail invites. Someone said print invite. Someone said mail invite. Mail invite. So we have design invites. What is the difference between design invite and mail invite? Electronic invite. Well, all these invites, I'm talking of there are options beside the table. You see, shop for shoes. You have create guest list. Okay, create guest list. Yes. All right. For food. Now let's go to the second activity for food. What are we going to have for food? What are we going to have for food? What are we going to be filling in the boxes for food? Oh, find caterer. Yeah, find caterer. Find caterer. Of course, they always look for caterer. Yeah, find caterer. Okay. For the bridal now. For the bridal, what are we going to have? That's the lady now. I think this has to do with the lady. I know that so many ladies will. All right. We have had so many responses. So now let's see if we are correct. Now you can see what you can see. You can see now for invitations, what we have to do is what we have to create the guest list. That's the first activity. We have to create the guest list. Then we have to print the invitations because until you have created the guest list, you know how many people you are going to be inviting. You don't know how many invitations you're going to print. You understand? Then we're going to mail, after you have printed, you already have your guest list and you have printed your invitations. You're not going to mail those invitations. Then you're not going to wait for RSVP. Can someone tell me what does RSVP mean? Because more often than we hear it means rise as two, very plenty. And so what's the meaning of RSVP? Somebody has the meaning. Reservoir. Someone said reservoir. Okay. That was a reservoir. All right, let's not waste much time. For the food, we are going to find a creator. That's the first activity we're going to do for the food to make sure that we have good food. You know, one thing with food can always be an issue in a wedding. You have some people who will be satisfied. You have some who will never be satisfied. You have some this food is too small. You understand? So you always have issues with food. So food is a very delicate part when you're organizing a wedding. Now you have to find a caterer. You have to finalize the menu. Tell the caterer, okay, this is what I want you to cook. Then, of course, you have to cater for the wedding. Someone is giving me a French response here. Okay, all right. Then for the bridal, you have to shop for the bride's shoe. Of course, shoe, very important. Very important. The shoes, shop for shoes banquet, tailoring and fitting. So you can see this example. You see why it's important to define activities, and you see why the scope Scope is very, very important. All right. Now, of course, then the tools and techniques of designing activities, we're going to have expert judgment also. We're going to have the composition, rolling wave planning. We're going to have meetings. We're going to have face-to-face meetings, or you have virtual meetings, formal or informal meetings, to ensure that these plans are carried out. And most of the time, it's very important you have face-to-face meetings. Is most of the time very important. But thank God for newer platforms like Zoom. You can also have meetings, important meetings through Zoom, and achieve and some other software platforms to achieve your goal. Now, for the outputs, we have activity lists. I remember I told you we're going to talk on some of the outputs activities. Activity lists includes schedule activities required on the project and required on project. For project to use rolling wave planning or agile techniques, activities will be updated periodically as the project progresses. The activity list includes the activity identifier, the scope of work description, and the scope of work description. Now, under the activity list, you have activity attributes, and under the activity, you can see the diagram. You have on the activity list, you're going to have the project number. Of course, the project is going to be having some technical numbers. You're going to have the full project name. You're going to have it there. Like here, we have an example. We have the project Orion. We're going to have the project manager's name. You're going to have the date. You're going to have the activity IDs. You're going to have activity title, assigning the activity title, assigning one of those activity titles, you assign the project manager, create project record, assign project team. And you're going to have activity description. You're going to have the work scope. Those are the things you're going to have on your activity list. You may see different templates of activity list, but I think these are some of the major things you're going to find in your activity list. And now when we talk about milestone. Now milestone is the significant points in an event. Now after each task, after you have successfully completed each task, you have achieved a milestone. And those milestones now are going to be recorded on your milestone list. They're all going to be recorded on the milestone list. And of course, as you can see on your milestone list, you have the project number, you have the project name, project manager, you have the milestone ID, you have the milestone title, milestone description, and you have the milestone type and the date, if it's applicable, the date to achieve that milestone. And you know that when we're talking about milestone is using a zero-day duration. Milestone is using a zero-day duration. So I believe when we had those previous lectures, Mr. Benito was talking about milestone. Remember, like you said, milestone, they are just significant points in an event. Milestone list just identifies the various milestones achieved. Okay, now, of course, when we had a rolling wave, when we consider the rolling wave planning, we had iterative events. At first, your planning will be predictive at first, maybe you're trying to predict. And along the line, as it gets clearer, you're going to have a better picture. Then there's going to be a request for some changes. Like, for instance, if you are developing a software and you have a specification of software for the developers to carry out, and later on, you decide that, okay, you want to make some updates to the software. You want to add some features to it. Now, adding those features requires that you make a change request. And a change request is a formal proposal for an automation to some products or system. So we are going to make some changes. And you know that, along the line when you're monitoring and controlling, that's when you're going to discover those little potholes, and you're going to discover the more detailed information. So you're going to now make changes to your plan to adjust, to adapt to those changes. You understand? Now, change requests can also originate internally. It can originate internally or externally. Now, internal change requests can involve a wide range of activities, which includes patching. Like patching is in software, patching and software hardware upgrades. Now when we talk about patching, it's called that your your laptop or your system, if you're using Microsoft Windows 10, it's got that after some time, if you connect to the internet, it gets to a time you maybe you want to shut down. It's called that. It will tell you updating. It gives you this updating signature. It will allow you to shut down. It will show you some percentage updates. Now those updates you came in through your connection, because when you are connected to the internet, you are also connected to Microsoft. So if they have patches, now those patches represent updates for that operating system, So now if they have patches, the latest updates, as long as you're connected to the internet, you're connected directly to Microsoft workstation. You're connected to their servers. So when they have those updates, they automatically update your system through those patches. You understand? So that's just wanted to give us understanding of what those patches means. Now, once a change request has been made, the process of change control should be undertaken, and to make sure that the request is satisfied effectively without unnecessary use of resources. Now, once the project sponsor says, okay, there are changes that should be made on the project, of course, it will generate a change request, and those changes should be made instead of say ignoring the change. I just want to carry on with resources. You waste resources. So in order not to waste those resources, you ensure that the change request is done, so that you conserve your resources. So sorry, are you with me, please? If you can still hear me, I have to be sure you can hear me. Please, you can hear me, just type one in the chat room. I can see someone is asking for attendance list. Attendance list will come up immediately after the lecture. We'll drop the attendance list. All right. All right. Thank you very much. So we're gonna have, okay, now define those components. Now components that may be updated, of course, we'll update our schedule baseline, update our cost baseline. Those are the things we're going to be updating along the line. And then let's move to the next. Now we're going to move to, after we have defined these activities now, we're going to move to sequencing activities. Now, sequencing activities is the process of identifying and documenting the relationships amongst the project activities. Now, the key benefit of this process is that it defines the logical sequence of work to obtain the greatest efficiency, given all project constraints. Yes. Now, you have identified the activities. Now you have to sequence those work activities, maybe according to your priorities, or which activities should come first, so that you're going to be efficient to avoid you're gonna give an efficient output to meet up your project deliverables. Now, the process is performed throughout the project, of course, and the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs for these processes are depicted below. And you can see on the input you have, of course, your project management plan, schedule management plan, scope baseline. You have the project document. You have the activity attributes and activity list. We have talked about activity list. We have seen a template of milestone list, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets. Now, the sequencing. We have the tools and techniques. We have preceding diagramming methods, and we have dependency determination, integration, lists and lags, and project management information systems. We're on the output. We have the project schedule network diagrams and the project documents updates. Now, on these tools and technique, I think we're going to look at the preceding diagramming. Now, the preceding diagramming, now what it means is that it's a technique that's used for constructing schedule models, now in which the activities are presented by nodes and are graphically linked by one or more logical relationships to show the sequence in which the activities are to be performed. Now, you agree with me that some activities will start before some other activities. Some activities will start simultaneously. Some activities have to start after the finish of another activity. And now every activity except the first and the last ones are connected to one predecessor and one successor. Now, what do we mean by a predecessor? Now, a predecessor activity is an activity that logically comes before a dependent activity in a schedule. It comes before a dependent activity. That means the activity that comes after it is dependent on that predecessor activity. And now, when we talk about successor activity, now successor activity is a dependent activity, of course, that logically comes after another activity in the schedule. It may not necessarily come from the first activity, but it comes from a predecessor activity and successes the activity. Now we have leads and lags that might also be necessary. We'll talk more about that. Now, yes, now considering when we talked about the precedence diagram method, now the methods includes 4 dependencies. The methods include 4 dependencies, and these dependencies, you have the first one, which is start to finish. Start to finish FS. Now, this start to finish means that the task B cannot start until task A finishes. That's just what it means. When you talk about the dependencies, when you talk about start to finish, finish to start dependency, it means the first task, which is task A, must finish before the task B, which is the task following it, must start. Then, of course, for example, you cannot start building a fence without digging the holes and putting a little foundation before you lay the bricks. Of course, you have to do that. Then we now go to the second relationship, which has to be finish to finish. Now, finish to finish means that task B cannot finish until task A finishes. Task B cannot finish until task A finishes. Now, example is also planting seeds that cannot, planting seeds cannot start until this soil is still. Now, you cannot just go and you want to plant your seeds. You are a farmer, you want to plant, and you just drop the seeds. No, you have to till the soil. You have to prepare the ground and do all the necessary things to ensure before you now plant your seeds. Now we have the start to start relationship. We have that means task B cannot start until task A starts. So as task A starts, as the task A starts, task B will also start. Someone is asking in the chat room, when is the class coming to an end? The class will come to an end by 4 p.m. by the grace of God, by 4 p.m. So we have start to start relationship. So task B cannot start until task A starts. And we have the start to finish relationship, which task B cannot start until task A starts. And we're gonna be seeing that in the diagrammatically, so you get to understand it better. Now you can see the relationship. You see the relationship. Now we said what? We said the first relationship. We said the first relationship is finish to start. Finish to start. So A must finish before B starts, and you can see the diagram here. The A has to start. You can see the diagram. A has to start before B can start. You can see there where you're going to see FS, finish to start. Finish to start, you're going to see FS. A has to start. As A finishes, then it links up to B, and B can now start. Now, for the second relationship, finish to finish, where you see the diagram where you see FF, you see that the A has to finish before B can finish. So, invariably, A and B must have started. A and B must have started, but A has to finish before B can finish. I hope you understand that. So for the finish to finish relationship, it means A must finish before B. Although they may have started earlier on, both of them may have started, but A has to finish before B. And then we have the start to start. The diagram where you see SS there, you see start to start. That's A starts, then B starts. A will start first, then B starts. It doesn't have to wait for A to finish. Just as soon as A starts, then B starts simultaneously. Then we have, of course, the start to finish, which is when A starts, B finishes. When you look at the diagram where you see SF as start to finish, the diagram, when A starts, B can finish. Now, that means that tax, tax B cannot finish until A has started. That's what it means. Tax B cannot finish. Whatever tax you are doing, you are carrying out the tax B cannot finish until tax A has started. So that's just what it means. And we're going to be looking at more diagrams to see get a better understanding. Now, if you look at this diagram, now this diagram represents various tasks. Your A, B, C, D, and all that represent various tasks. Various tasks that you're going to carry out in the project. You understand? Various tasks. You're going to begin the beginning, start the tax. You're going to have tax A, tax B, C, and all that. Now you discover that, well, at the beginning, you have tax A, H, and K starting. Tax A, H, and K are starting. Now you also discover also that you now see those relationships we talked about. You see those relationships that you see that until tax A finishes, tax B cannot start. You understand? So tax A has to finish before B starts. Then you discover that in C you have start to start relationship. That means as tax B starts, immediately tax B starts, then tax C now starts together with it. You understand? That's where you have the start relationship. You discover also, you can see from F to G, finish to start. Tax F has to finish before you start tax G. And other relationship, you can see tax L and J. You see the relationship it means the relationship between tax L and J. You can see that whatever tax you're carrying out in L has to finish before the tax you're carrying out in J will now finish. You understand? So you can now see what those relationship means. You now apply that to various tasks that you're going to be carrying out in your project to give you a better planning in that project. Then sometimes a task cannot start until a certain time period has elapsed between those tasks. Now, when we say a task that cannot start until a certain time period that has elapsed between those tasks. Now, that's we call it a lagging time. That's a task cannot start until a certain period. That's you lag that task. You delay that task, the starting time of that task. After a certain time, you now allow the task to start. That's what we mean by the lag time. And for example, that of course the tax B has an FS, that's a start to finish to start relationship to tax A with a lag time of 10 days. That's when tax B has a finish to start relationship with tax A lag time to 10 days. So even after tax A has finished it, you still have to wait for 10 days before you now start tax B. Now the opposite now is when the tax must start at a certain time period before the dependency is called lead time. So it starts before that time. Now we have dependencies. Well, we talk about dependencies. Dependencies are not essential, especially for small projects. Now, some of these dependencies may not really be applicable to small projects, maybe smaller projects. But you see, in large projects, you have to take you have to be conversant with this relationship. It helps you to plan properly and so that you are able to place every task. You are able to schedule every task as they should be scheduled and be able to allocate those tasks to each team member. So the next, after you sequence your activities, you now estimate activity resources. Now, these are estimate activity resources is actually at the Project Management Book of Knowledge edition 5. It's not on edition 6, I think. So, but we'll still talk about it. I will talk about it. Now, it's a process of estimating the type and quantities of materials. Process of estimating the type of quantity of materials, the people, the workforce that will carry out this the project, the equipment is or supplies required to be performed in these activities. So you see that resources, we have to also plan for resources also because you need those resources to carry out the project successfully. Now, once the sequencing of activities is determined, the resources for each activities must be estimated. Now, this takes the form of estimating the number of units required for the following. Of course, number of staff, number of staffs that you need to carry out that project, the equipment and tools that you need to carry out the project, the facilities you need for those equipments, the funding, of course, and any other item necessary to complete the tasks. So that's what we have about activity resources. Of course, we also have, you see that similar inputs, tools, and techniques also apply to this. All right, okay, we are at the next activity, which is the estimating the activity duration. Estimating the activity duration. Now, estimating activity duration is a process of estimating the number of work periods needed to complete individual activities with estimated resources. Now, you have defined your activities already. You have defined those activities. You have sequenced them of how they should start, how they should finish, when to start, when to finish. You understand? So you have to, of course, you have to now give them durations. Durations, when, how many days will they carry with these projects, with each task be carried out? How many days will each task be carried out? You know, the period, work periods. Are they going to be working from Monday to Friday, Monday to Sunday? You know, you're going to specify all that. The key benefit of this process is to provide the amount of time each activity will take to complete. Yes, you're gonna provide the amount of time each activity will take to carry out to carry out each task. Now, of course, you're gonna, just like I rightly say, you're gonna determine if the schedule for work for carrying out this project, are you gonna be working from Monday to Friday? From what time to what time? It's gonna be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then after 2 p.m. the work stops and continues the next day. Or are you going to have breaks? Maybe if there's a public break, if there's a public break, are you going to have breaks during those periods? Or are you going to work on Sundays? Are you going to work on Saturdays? You have to consider all those things, in estimating the durations. And you're going to allocate timings for each task by so time. These tasks will have been performed and completed. Yeah, I hope we understand that. So, so we have now, of course, under the tools and techniques, of estimating the activity durations, you're going to have expert judgment, of course. Staff members who are going to advise staff members on what activities to perform, are going to allocate tasks to each staff member. You're going to consider analogous estimation, that's using actual cost of previous similar projects as basis for estimating the cost of the current one. There are instances where you may have come across similar projects in the past. So you're not going to use the actual cost of those previous projects as a basis for estimating the cost of the current one. But like I said, when you get a clearer detail the cost and all that. You're going to update your plan, of course. Then when we talk about parametric estimating, just technique used in statistical relationship between the historical data and other variables, considering historical data and the variables and how we can make corrections and give a better deliverable. Now, the basis for the parametric estimating also is the basis for activity duration. Well, can be determined by multiplying the work by productivity rate. Now, we're going to have some calculations under parametric estimation, and I think later on in subsequent lectures, we're going to fill us in on those calculations to give us a better planning. And we're going to have reserve analyst that's incorporating additional time refers to as contingency reserves. Now, what this means, this reserve analysis. Now, you have stipulated the time for completion of a project. Now, you know that this project is going to be completed in 7 days on the dot. Now, on your planning, you don't just state it as, okay, this project, I know it's going to be completed on the 7th day, but it will be wiser to give some contingencies, that's to give some extra days, so that in case something goes wrong, you have more days to carry out that project. Now, you discover that some of those environmental factors, external factors that affects projects, they come to play, especially when you have those issues. Now, you discover that, like you see, during, a lot of constructions were going on during the COVID-19, when the COVID-19 issue came up. There are a lot of projects that were going on, and it's the COVID-19 pandemic affected so many of these projects. You understand? And you now discover that some of those projects now have to be reviewed. Their plan schedule now have to be reviewed once more. Now, if some of them have given, for instance, if this pandemic did not last maybe like 2 weeks, it would have been easier for some of them to, if they have given some contingency reserves in their schedule, it will have been easy for them to meet up. But now, as it is now, they have to now reschedule their tax. So that's just a little example. Then, of course, under the tools and techniques also, we have 3-point estimates. Now, 3-point estimates just have to do with the use. We use it for the time and cost estimation. That's 3-point estimates. And now we use it to calculate the most likely time you complete the project. We will have the most likely time you're going to complete the project, the optimistic time when you're optimistic that project will be completed, the pessimistic time also. We have the analytic techniques, averaging out 3 cost duration. You have optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic. We'll talk about this maybe later on. Then now we go to developing the schedule. We define the schedule, then we sequence them. We put them in sequence according to their priorities, which should start first, which should continue, and all that. Then of course, we consider the resources that will be used for the projects. We estimate the resources. Now we estimate the duration of it. Then we now develop the schedule. We develop the schedule now, and of course, when we are developing the schedule, it's just the process of you analyzing the activity sequence now, the durations and the resources requirements and schedule constraints, and to create the schedule model for project execution, monitoring and controlling. Now, the key benefits of this process is that it generates the schedule model with planned dates for completion of the project. Now, you develop the schedule. Now, when you are developing the schedule, you're going to use a lot of tools to develop this schedule, and most of the time, you're going to make use of some of our software tools later on when we get to the practical class on project Microsoft project professional application on how to use it. You're going to see all these concepts. You're going to see how they apply, and we're going to see how we're going to schedule our activities. And so on the input, we have project management plan, we have the schedule management plan, scope, baseline, project documents, activity attributes. We've talked about that. Basics estimate, duration, activities, lessons learned register. Now, lessons learned register from previous events, what you've been able to learn, the mistakes you're able to learn, and you're able to correct them in the projects now that you're embarking upon. Then the project team assignments, of course, you have assigned team members various tasks. Those are the inputs now. Resource calendar, resource requirements, risk register, the agreements, and all that. Then we now go to the tools and techniques, schedule work analysis, critical path method. We're going to look at that critical path method. Resource organization, data analysis, the what if scenarios that you are speculating, simulation, leads and lags, and whatever. On the output, we have, on the output, we're going to have the schedule baseline, project schedule data. Okay. I believe we are following. I please, if you can hear me, just type 1-1. I have to be sure that you can hear me and you're getting all what I'm saying. All right. All right. All right. I think it will be appropriate at this time. We'll just take just 2 minutes break, just 2 minutes break, 2 minutes break, and we'll be back. Please don't go anywhere. Just 2 minutes so that we can stretch up. I know some people that are asking when is the lecture going to finish. Okay, so you just stretch up, just 2 minutes. We'll start again in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And if there's an announcement to be made, or it can be made by the coordinator in these 2 minutes.
All right, thank you so much, Engineer Abraham, for the class so far. It has been wonderful. It has been awesome. It has been great. And I trust everyone is enjoying the class as well. I see that some people could be feeling that the class is technical, or maybe at this point is a way looking like what you didn't plan for. All right, I want to say in the chat room, if you're feeling like this class is too technical for you, can you type 1-1 in the chat room? Like you need some more time to understand it. Can I get your 1-1 in the chat room? Okay, the class is too technical for you, or the class is becoming technical. All right, so thank you. This class is awesome. So if you ever feel like it's technical, all you need to do is to calm down and understand the keywords, understand the whole, understand the way it is being cornered or garnered together. Everything in project management, there are things we do every day. So feel free, relax. If you have areas you don't understand, you will get the slide, you go through it, and then we'll all come back and look at it. So don't feel don't feel like you are not because you're not getting it, so you give up. No, we'll still have group work where you have all the time to discuss with your group and all of that. All right, so feel free to hang around, and if you have questions, ask any of the facilitators, and I'm sure they will take all the time to tell you what those concepts mean in practice. You can hook us in any of the social media You can join us personally. You can join us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter. In fact, anywhere there is social media, just search for IPM facilitators, there you'll find us. All right, just find the name of the person you want to look out for, and then you will be able to connect with the person. All right, so before the facilitator comes on board, all right, I'm seeing something also in the chat room from Choose of Wisdom. Say the key is to follow the 10 knowledge areas step by step, and that is awesome. Like I stated when we started this class, don't ever miss any class. Don't ever, because if you miss one class, coming back, it will seem as though you're not even understanding what is being said. So please, let's all pay attention, and let's try as much as we can to be, timely to the classes and ask questions where in doubt, and that will help. Okay, so very, very, very interesting. As we proceed, to some it may look a little technical, but don't feel the pressure of it's technical, so let me go and take another course that is not technical. The higher the risk involved, the more the opportunities involved. So if you ever feel that there is a higher risk of learning here, I think this is where you need to pay attention to. And someone once said in this class, said it's like project managers don't have free time. This is also part of what it means. So understanding all of these things and applying them have their own strategic importance to our career and to our businesses. All right, so thank you so much, and please stay on board. By 3:30, we'll be sharing the attendance. So please stay on board, and please, when you take your attendance, don't go anywhere. All right, stay on board till the class is over. Then you can go have your rest. We'll be ending this class by 4. We'll be ending the class by 4. So by 4 o'clock, that's the only time you're permitted to leave the class. Or perhaps I will delay the attendance till 3:40, so that people will not be exiting the class. All right, Mr. Abraham, if you're ready, please, over to you.
Yes, I'm actually ready, but my system just ran out of battery. That's why I'm using the phone right now.
Okay,
that's why I'm trying to slide to where I stopped. I'm just sliding to where I stopped so that I can continue from there. I ran out of battery on my system, so I had to switch to my phone.
All right.
So I can you see my screen?
Currently it's blank. Okay, it's up now.
Okay. I'm sliding to where I stopped. As soon as I get to where I stop, I'm gonna start.
Okay, can you put your phone on landscape so that it can be much more visible here? Because here it's just showing portrait.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes, better this way.
All right. So let me just get to where I stopped, and we'll just continue from there. Thank you for your patience. Please just be patient with me a little while. We'll continue. We're almost done, actually. So you can now see the importance of each knowledge area. You see that they are all interrelated, and you must follow each step. You can't jump one before another. And I know the schedule may sound technical. When we get to the practicals using Microsoft Project Professional, we'll get to see all these things applied there. But we have to know the concepts before we can now continue. I believe we stopped at okay, developing a schedule. Okay. All right. So develop schedule. I think that's where we stop, right? Develop schedule. Okay. All right. Now, we're going on developing the schedule under the tools and techniques. Talking about critical path method now. Now, a critical path for a project is a series of activities that determine the earliest time by which the project can be completed. Now, George, is just a series of activities that determines the earliest time by which a project activity can be, by which the project can be completed. Now, the critical path is the longest path through the network diagram and has the least amount of slack or floats. Now, the longest path in this diagram, you can see in this diagram, you have various tasks. From the start is at the S there, the finish at the F. From the start, now you have various tasks in between. But the longest among them, if you can see clearly, is that of the 7 days. That's, you have a task spanning for 4 days, and you have a task spanning for 3 days. Now, when the project starts, you're going to have tasks. You're going to have 3 tasks starting at the same time. You're going to have the task that's going to span for 4 days starting. You're going to have the task that stands for a day starting, and you're going to have another task that spans for 2 days, that have a duration of 2 days starting. Now, when you look at the duration for each task, you're going to discover that the longest task here is actually the task that is being carried out in 4 days, as you can see on the diagram. Now, followed by the tasks carried out in 3 days. Now, of course, if we remember our relationships, before the task that has been carried out in 3 days will start, the task that has been done in 4 days has to finish first before the task that shall be done in 3 days will start and now heads directly to the finishing of the project. Now, of course, you can also, if you remember the relationships we talked about just previously, you can also use them to relate each task, how some should start, when some should start, when some should finish. You know the tasks that should start and that should finish. After you have defined those tasks, you know, okay, this task is when it's supposed to finish. Okay, like when we did a case study of when you're going to have a conference, you're going to organize a conference. Okay, you know that before the conference, there are some tasks that has to be carried out. Now you must have performed the tasks of inviting, looking for a conference speaker, a facilitator. You know, you carry out that task. You carry out the tasks of looking for maybe the venue. You know, you sort out that task. You know, and all that. So those tasks now, you're going to allocate them into days. Okay, by so time to time, I will have achieved this milestone. I'll have achieved this other milestone, you know, and all that. Then you keep moving forward till you complete the whole task. So the critical part actually is the longest part that ensures that the tasks are being carried out successfully. The longest part, and it's actually a very important, part of the project. Every other part is important also. All right. Let's move to the next slide. All right. Yeah, you're going to have, now when we get to the practical aspect, using the Microsoft Project Professional, you're going to see how we're going to, you know, carry out all these activities that you have lined up, defining the tags, you know, estimating duration, you know. Now we're going to develop, now this is developing the schedule now. You're using the Microsoft Project Professional to develop the schedule now for all those activities that you have lined up. You understand? Now there's Microsoft Project Professional is not just the only application you can use for that. There are so many other applications that you can use to achieve that. And even you'll be able to carry out your design your milestone list, your activity list, and all those other activities. Now you can see from the diagram here, you can see we're here considering a dinner party project. This is a dinner party project. And when they look at the work breakdown structure, what are the activities? When we define the activities, now the activities there, you are planning for the dinner party and supervising. You are planning, you consider the planning, consider the budget, the amount that will be used for the dinner party. Then the disbursement, disbursing the resources to all those that should be empowered financially to provide every of those deliverables that are needed for the conference for the dinner party to be successful. And coordination, you have to consider the dinner also. The food, of course, very important. Ensure that the caterer is settled and every other thing. The menu, you give them the right menu. The shopping list, shopping, cooking, serving, room, equipment, the site, stock room, the tables and chairs. You're setting a dinner, you ensure that you have enough tables and chairs to meet up the audience as you're coming for the dinner. And setting utensils. Now, I'm sure you have gone to, there's some, especially when you have gone to some weddings, you get to some weddings, it may not be properly planned for. Maybe they didn't know that a certain large amount of people are going to come for their wedding. And maybe they made a plan for 200 people, and at the end of the day, 500 people came for the wedding. So what happens? You discover that some of those cutleries, some of those chairs, tables are not enough, utensils are not enough. See, give somebody plates, a plate of food, it doesn't have spoon. He's now waiting for somebody to finish his own work, and so when you don't have a proper planning, you see how it affects the whole scenario, affects the whole project. So then now we're considering the dinner party now. Then decorations, of course, you make the dinner is a colorful one. You don't just invite people and you now put plastic chairs, and you don't put some designs to make the place look attractive and all that, to have a conducive environment, to depict an environment that is inviting. Then you consider the equipment of God. Also, you have to consider in a dinner party, you have to consider one of the persons you have to consider is the DJ, of course, and ensure that he's there. Now you discover that when you have listed all these activities, just as you have defined them, you now see start date, you see finish date. What happened? Oh my God. Sorry, it's like took me back. Sorry, will somebody there? Oh, sorry about this. I don't know. I clicked and it took me back. Sorry about the delay. Anytime from now we'll be through with the lecture, because this like the last part of the lecture, just giving us some examples so that we get conversant with what we're talking about. So now, of course, you see that we have the start date and the finish date for each activity. You can see each activity has a start date and a finish date. Now, when you put the start date and finish date, it now shows you, when you're using the software, the bars you see, the colored bars you see there, will show you the duration of those events. When we use Microsoft Project Professional, George, please ensure you don't miss the practical class, because with that, you're going to understand all these concepts we're talking about. Now, when we use the software, we're going to see how we're going to apply all these little tasks that we have designed, that we have sequenced and all that. We're going to apply it, and you're going to see how everything plays out in the Gantt chart. Now, you discover that as a project management professional, as a project manager, you should be able to use some of these tools, because you don't expect, recently, you don't expect, you have to provide a good report, a concise report that carries out all the details. So you don't expect a pen and paper report. As a project manager, you should be confident with your tools And thank God for all these software updates and what have you. Our project management who has a lot of tools, and there have been a lot of updates with templates and all that to ensure that you do proper reporting and you update, you frequently give your updates and your reports. All right. So okay, now I think the last one should be control schedule now. Last one, control schedule. So please don't mind the lines on my screen. Don't mind the lines, please. All right, control schedule now. Now you have defined your activities, you have sequenced them, you have estimated the duration, you have developed the schedule already now. So now that you have developed the schedule, now you're going to monitor, you are now going to be monitoring that each task are carried out according to the plan that has been scheduled. According to your plan that has been scheduled, you are going to monitor those tasks. Now, the process of monitoring the status of the product, control schedule, is the process of monitoring the status of the product to update the project progress and manage changes to the schedule baseline. You understand? So you're going to be determining the current status of the project schedule. At each time, each task is being carried out, you determine the status. Has this task been completed, or what are the changes that is to be made on this task to ensure that it's successful, is completed. So each of those tasks in the work packages are completed so that a major task is complete, and a major milestone is covered. Then it's a control scheduling actually influences the factors that create the schedule changes. Now, when you experience some changes and some updates, it will affect your schedule, of course. Affect your schedule. You have to make changes to your schedule. Of course, we talked about change request, making a change request. Then the control schedule also determines that the project schedule has changed. Okay. It determines if you make those updates, there are some changes, like you are designing a software and there are some changes, some features, added features you want in the software. So now the control schedule now is to enable you ensure that those updates, those features that you want to be added are added into the scope. And of course, that's after your change request has been approved. Those changes now will now be added to your project schedule. Now, managing the actual changes, okay, we're just saying the same thing. So I think control scheduling is the last. What's our time now? I know some people, okay. Well, it appears this is the last slide. Well, this is the last slide on my slides. There are some concepts I wanted to look into, but well, I think this is the last slide on my slide. I think this will also give us, I hope you understand all we're talking about. Please, I know it may sound technical. That's why you see that each knowledge area is very, very important, very, very important. So it's very important that we also get our materials. Now, some of us, if we are going for materials, we're going to have these slides. So we can go through them. We're going to have the slides. We're going to have the materials, which will have a better, knowledge and more explanations on these things. So I advise you to get the materials, and you can also review the lecture if you still want to come back to it. If you were not in previous classes, please go to the YouTube channel and go through those classes. Then you can now come back and go through this class again. I know you will get to understand what we were talking about. So I'm confident that my lead consultant is here, Dr. Eburiche Banito, and he will be helping me out also because I am here under his anointing. I know there is no question you ask that he will not be able to answer, and we're going to see how to make sure that everyone is carried along. So I think I will hand over now to my coordinator for now, Dr. Eburiche Benito. Sir, Doctor, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Engineer Abraham. It had been a wonderful time. Your class had been wonderful, and I really appreciated every bit of the class. You are wonderful, and I want to also thank everyone that has been on ground for this class. So please, everyone, can we say thank you to Engineer Thompson? Please, can we all say thank you to Engineer Thompson before we start asking questions? Please, can we say thank you, a big thank you to Engineer Thompson? Thank you so much, Engineer. It has been.
Thank you, everyone.
So while we are saying all the thank yous,
I appreciate.
Thank you. So can we get the questions now? The classes were much more practical because he provided templates of what or samples of what had been done, which gave background to understand schedule management very well. Starting from the examples on conference to examples on using Gantt charts and all of that. So I think it helped quite a lot in understanding it. Nonetheless, I understand that some people may find some things quite technical, but not to worry. Everything in this course is practical enough. So like he said, when we get to the practical session, most of these things will be understood much or more with the practical aspect. But should you have any question, please feel free to ask. Okay, feel free to ask. And if you've not, if you bought the material, you've not downloaded the Microsoft Project Professional, please do yourself a favor, go and download it so that you could have it installed in your system. If you already have it in your system, then just be going through it till we get to the practical section. Now, I would like to know if there is any question coming to us. Whether you are even planning to write exam or not, I think I will encourage you to get the manual. You might not, in case you don't have all the resources to go for the exams and all of that, at least try and get the manual, get all the slides. I think it will help. Then when you get to the YouTube, get the video also. Go through the manual, go through the video, and that will help. Okay. Thank you so much. So let's get to the questions. If you want to pay for anything, this is the schedule of the payment. So if you want to pay for anything, you can find it on the screen and then decide which one you want to pay. For whichever one you want to pay, please, we encourage you to go ahead and pay it. All right, so I have some questions coming up from the chat room. Some of us paid for the past 48 hours and no confirmation yet. If you are in the WhatsApp group, you could have received an information that all payments made over the weekend will be verified on Monday. So if you're on WhatsApp group and you've not received that information, please go back and check it well. All payments made from Saturday till now will be verified by Monday. All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. So if you have any question for Engineer Thompson, please go ahead and let's have the questions. If you've not signed the attendance, please, the attendance link has been passed like up to 5 times, but I'm passing it again. So please kindly take your attendance and go. Okay. Is there anyone here that is not on YouTube? If you've not subscribed to YouTube, please, we encourage you to get to have the subscription on YouTube. When we say subscription, sometimes some people think they need to pay. Please, to subscribe on YouTube is free. It's just like making a friend on Facebook, so it's free. Just go to the link, click on subscribe, and click on the notification icon so that you can have the notification when classes start and also be able to get all the lectures for free. Okay. All right. Please, is there any question for Mr. Thompson? I know we are just 9 minutes to time. So if there is any question, please, you can raise your hand and let's take the questions. If there is any comment, please, you can raise your hand as well. And let's take the comment. So by next week, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, thank God we're able to get through to the timetable for this week. So by next weekend, we'll be having project cost management, project quality management, and project resources management. So let's prepare for those classes: project scope, project cost management, project quality management, and project resource management. If you have your manuals, go through it, and let's have all your questions prepared. Let's have all your comments prepared. Let's have all your contributions prepared. All right, so that when we come on Saturday and Sunday, it will be easier for us to go through. Okay, so I'm seeing a hand up. Please kindly unmute and let's hear from you, Christopher Mbono.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Well, I wanted to start with thanking the facilitator for the wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
In fact, the lecture tried to clarify more of what Dr. Banito explained earlier. That's on my own side. So the question I just wanted to ask is in two phases. One is for the first lecture, while the other one is for the second lecture.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm permitted to do so.
Yes, you're permitted.
Well, okay, for the first lecture, I didn't really get the concept of requirement traceability matrix. I don't know if you can go through it again.
Okay.
Why for the second lecture, he asked the question of us getting the full meaning of RSVPs. I don't know if that have a special meaning, because I don't think he gave the meaning of it.
Okay. I was thinking that by now you would have just asked Google and gotten the meaning of RSVP, because virtually is used in every invitation. So just ask Google. Google will give you the meaning. It's actually a French.
I checked it on Google. Okay. I checked it on Google, but I wanted to hear from him.
And whatever Google tells you is the correct one. It's a French. So you see, Princess is telling you the meaning. Is just convert this French to English. You will see the meaning. Okay. All right. Princess, as you finish typing the French version, please type the English version as well. So that engineer will focus on the main question concerning project management. All right. So your question was you didn't really understand more of the requirements traceability matrix. Okay. So let me bring the keyword there. The keyword there is trace. So what are we tracing? We are tracing project objectives to business objectives. Did you get that? So for every project objective, there should be a corresponding business objective, or should I say, for every project you want to do as an individual, there should be a personal objective that project should be able to handle. So what the requirements traceability matrix is trying to balance is the requirements of those stakeholders versus the objective of the project. Do they really correspond? The activities of the project, do they really correspond with the objectives of the project? The deliverables, do they really correspond with the expectations of the stakeholders? That's what the requirements traceability matrix tries to do. Do you get that?
Yeah, I got that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so you see the several meaning of RSVP in the chat room.
Yeah.
So just choose the one you want to follow. All right, thank you so much. Let's hear from Engineer Simon. Please, Engineer Simon, kindly unmute and let's hear from you. Engineer Simon?
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir. You're welcome.
Yeah, good
Yes,
evening.
we can hear you.
Yeah,
We are welcome.
Yeah, my question is on crashing.
Your question is on?
On crashing for the second lecture.
Crashing. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to find out when you crash an activities, you try to increase resources on the critical path. If I'm right.
That's right.
By making the schedule trade-off. So is there any impact this will have on the? Is there any impact this will have on the compression schedule?
Your voice is a little far from the microphone. Can you come close, please?
I'm using a laptop. My headset is having issues. So
so sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out the impact on crashing with, on the schedule compression. The impact, because if you are increasing these things have oftentimes have made me to have issues practically. When we are trying to crash when you are trying to crash an activity, it will have an impact on cost and risk.
Of course.
Can you hear me, sir? So
yes, I can hear you.
How do you manage the impact when you are trying to crash a program? Sorry, an activity.
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. Is a very good question. Now, most of them
Dr. Benito, your mic is muted. Your mic is muted, Dr. Benito.
So sorry, I didn't notice that. Okay, so before you crash on a project, it is good you know the resource availability you have and the time availability, because crashing on its own is a risk. In the crashing technique, in order to catch up with the project schedule, extra resources should be put on the remaining activities that you want to crash. Okay, so because if it is possible to assign more resources, activity duration will decrease, and then it will shorten the duration of the critical part. So it is important we make extra resources available before we start crashing. Do you comprehend with me, engineer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so invariably, if you want to crash, it will definitely increase your cost.
Okay, sir.
Yes, if you want to crash project activities, obviously it will increase the cost of your project, and it will also impact, although your schedule compression or schedule crashing as part of the compression tools, it will help you meet up with time, but the resources will definitely increase. So you're increasing resources as to meet up with the time expected. So if you want to crash, make sure there is resources available to meet up with the effect of the crashing. Does that help? Does that help, sir?
That's very good.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. Okay, so do we have any other question? That question is a question that we face every day, especially those of us that are doing construction engineering work. We face that we face this particular issue of crashing every day. Okay. All right. Is there any other question from anywhere? Okay. Is there any other question? I think this is 4:01. So our class is officially over now. So is there any question or is there anything you would like to ask us now before we close this class? So from the payment schedule, if you want to make any payment, please use the account stated on the screen. And like I said earlier, if you made any payment Saturday or Sunday, please, the confirmation will come on Monday and you receive all your materials on Monday. So from 8 a.m. tomorrow, you will start receiving confirmations and all of that. Then you get your materials. And if there is any material, please listen very well too. If there is any material used in this class that is not in your own study guide, please make sure you request for it. So when you're signing attendance, just request for that study material so that it will be sent to you. All right. Okay. So at this juncture, I would like to say a very big thank you to everyone. Please, we can go ahead to enjoy our rice and stew and chicken and turkey till next weekend. If you still have a friend who you will like to encourage to join this class, please, as you're encouraging the person to join this class, also encourage the person to visit our YouTube page to go through the classes that he or she could have missed, so that by Saturday or Sunday, it won't be a new thing to the person. All right, from Tawia Frepong, he said, please, if I visit UBA here in Ghana, will I just deposit the money into the account or I should transfer? Okay, when you get to your country in Ghana, or when you get to UBA in your country in Ghana, kindly tell them that you want to make payments to this account displayed here. So they will ask you which location. Kindly tell them Lagos. Okay, so the account is domiciled in Lagos. As they make the payment, it will get to us in Nigeria. I would like to ask, Tawai, do you have a credit card or debit card? If you have, I think it will be easier if you make your payment through the online platform. That will reduce risk. So if you have a credit card, please kindly use your credit card, because most often your payment could take up to 2 weeks before it will be confirmed in Nigeria, and you could be uncomfortable with that. So we encourage you to make your payment through credit card. As soon as your payment is made, confirmation is made immediately. But bank deposit could take up to 7 days to 14 days before it's confirmed here in Nigeria. Alongside with every other person that is not in Nigeria, please, we encourage you to make your payment online. The people from Kenya, the people from United Arab Emirates and other countries, please kindly use the online platform. And if your time is conflicting with the Nigerian and Ghana time, please kindly use the YouTube as a follow-up for your study. Okay, kindly use the YouTube as a follow-up for your study. Okay, so thank you so much, and do have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. By next week, I did not also include, we'll be having communication management, project communication management. So we'll be having one of our very best to take care of that. And one of our faculty members who also is in this class this evening, Princess Adeze, she will be the one to handle communication management by Sunday next week. So please ensure to be around. We'll also be having other faculty members to come around to take their classes. Should you have any question, please feel free to throw in the question any day, anytime, email, WhatsApp, call, anyone you choose. And please, we'll also encourage, if you are in this class and you need interns in your workplace, or you need people in your workplace, please kindly let us know. We'll help you with trying to find the best people who will be able to go alongside with you. And also, if you're in this class, you will need to, or you need what they call it? You need job change or job placement. Please feel free to also let us know in the chat room, so that those that are going to employ, we see those that want to be employed. I think that will help. All right. Okay. Also be informed that by next week, trust me, you need work. You will be giving people work. If you need banking job, please meet Truslin. If you need banking job, meet Truslin. She will give you one. Don't just say I need work. Or tell us the kind of work you need, and need intention like. Please, so what about if the person is outside Nigeria? Please, we have people in this class that are from Ghana, so you're not the only one from Ghana. In fact, the last class we had a professor from Ghana. okay, who is a faculty dean in one of the schools in Ghana. So there are other engineers here, there are other people here, there are pharmacists from Ghana. So you're not the only one from Ghana. Just make your intention known. You'll find others who will do a follow-up on you. Okay. Taiwo Johnson, your own is that you need contract. Okay. Thank you. Send your charter. Let's see what you have. Okay. So as we go through this class, feel free in the chat room, in the WhatsApp, feel free to drop your CVs, feel free to drop your profile, feel free to drop your social media links so that we can all connect, especially your Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn profiles. Please feel free to drop them and that will help. Okay, so I once again would like to say thank you so much to everyone who has participated in this class. See you by next weekend, Saturday, and that will be a very wonderful time. Also, be well informed that if you are making payment for manuals and exam at the same time, you're qualified for a 4.5 gig free data. So while you're filling your attendance form, in the place of remark, please kindly indicate there that you have completed your, what do they call it? You've completed your training manual fee and your examination fee, so that you get your what do you call it now? You'll get your data transferred to you. Okay. Thank you. So for the meantime, we have kindly feel free to network, interact, and whenever you're done, feel free to exit the class. Thank you so much and have a wonderful time. Engineer Thompson, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
All right. And enjoy a wonderful time, all of us.